Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. The dominoes are starting to fall. We are definitely living in some crazy-ass times, in case you haven't noticed. There's shit going on in every which direction. There is a lot of BS that is being orchestrated and put out by the celebrity elite power structure, its media lapdogs, and all these corrupt politicians. Turning neighbor against neighbor, person against person, race against race, people versus the police, all of this stuff. Anytime you look into any of this stuff that's going on, the statistics don't match up to what the media and everybody's saying in a lot of things. Now we've got a pandemic, protests, all this stuff is going on. But what is really going on? What's the bigger problem that's happening that people are trying to rebut? That all the rebuttalists, the apologists that are coming forward, and all the rest of these weirdos, half-wit J-cats, burnt-out crackheads, and everybody else that's all around spinning all kinds of shit in every which direction. What is the bigger picture that I'm speaking about? For anybody that's been paying attention to what's going on, the sex trafficking operators that have been functioning for thousands of years are now finally starting to fall, one after another. Good. Anybody want to know what karma looks like? When you're on the shit end of the stick, and a lot of these things, that is your karma. They're dropping like flies. Right and left, in all which directions. Even Ron Jeremy's in hot water. People that abuse women are suffering a horrible fate of death themselves. People that have been spinning a web of lies for so long are now starting to become exposed. The media hounds and the celebrity elite power structure and all the rest of its so-called social justice warrior brigade, well, they're all going to hit their fate sometime very soon as well. May not be in our lifetime. It may not be on our clock. It may not be by the means to which we want to achieve it, but it's going to happen. One way, shape, or form, it will happen. But what is this bigger picture that I'm talking about that's going on? Hillary Clinton, Obama, all the rest of them are in some really deep shit. They've manufactured a punching bag, a straw man, a villain in Donald Trump as a means to distract everybody from what's going on with them. Donald Trump is one man that is the villain in all this. But the people that are filing the paperwork, that are pushing the line to bring down all these pedophiles and all these weirdos and everything like that, don't necessarily work for Donald Trump. Their efforts should be applauded. Because thousands of children that are being trafficked, they're now starting to see some justice. Thousands of children that weren't believed, thousands of children that were blamed, are now starting to see their justice. It's no secret what I talk about with what happened to me. It takes a lot of courage for a man to come forward and talk about the very embarrassing, humiliating, and degrading sexual abuse that they suffered as a child. A child, mind you. A child, a 14-year-old child. This world is full of sick people, sick, twisted people that got an insidious agenda themselves. If there ever really was a devil, the devil works through these people, and you will know them by their fruit. People that support men who have physically, emotionally, and sexually assaulted women, sometimes even pregnant women. They rally around these kind of people like they're their heroes. They don't clean up the trash when these kind of people are on the yard with them. These people sometimes come back out in the streets and they're applauded by them. The enemy is all around us, and most of the time, people fall in line with them because it fits their optical illusion agenda. It fits their optics to create that euphoric sense within themselves so that they can have something to feel good about. They bite into bullshit messages that sound positive, but behind the scenes, they're really lukewarm. Or they're cold, or they're hot. I took a stand, and it took me a lot of heart and courage to share the things that happened to me with all of yous. I never once asked for anybody's sympathy. I never once asked anybody to shed any tears for me. I knew that I was going to be trolled. I knew that I'd be ridiculed. But I knew that I'd be supported. Why would I do such a thing? Because I believe in what I am doing. What I am doing, I've been doing it a long time, long before I came on YouTube. I started a nonprofit organization called Stand for Something Life to try to achieve this very goal. But guess what? The skin optics people, the race optics, the celebrity elite power structure and all the rest didn't want nothing to do with it. Nobody wants to talk about sexual abuse of boys. Boys that have been sexually abused get ridiculed more than anybody else. They get blamed for what they had to do in order to survive. They get blamed for the things that they took part in because they were living in straight terror and fear. People got a lot to say about boys that have been sexually abused because they've never had to experience it. People talk a real tough game about what they would have done, how they would have reacted. Just like the guy that's getting ready to go off and serve his country in combat talks about how badass he's going to be, how many people in the enemy he's going to kill. And that's the guy that's shitting in his pants in the trench, crying like a little baby, with his thumb in his mouth, yelling for mommy. Every time. People with big bark have no bite. There ain't a single child on this earth that has either been trafficked, forced into child pornography, sexually abused, that is to blame for any of their actions that they were forced to endure and live with for the rest of their lives. My story is a means to an end, to end the suffering of many men and boys that are living in the shadows, that are suffering, that are committing suicide, that are living in crime. They can't get off of drugs because they don't have nobody to relate to. They don't have nobody to intimate these things with. Somebody comes forth and they share their story. Others feel that they have hope now, that now they could share their story. And when they share their story, they have finally been able to reach a degree of peace that they may never have had before. But then you got these burnout, weirdo, JCAT mental cases that come out and ridicule people, ridicule the victims, ridicule the survivors. This is what child abusers and woman abusers and abusers of the elderly do. You'll know them by their fruit because this is what they do. Anybody that ridicules a child for being abused or anything like that, know that somewhere in the back of their mind or somewhere deep in their closet, they're either a woman raper, a child abuser, or abuser of the elderly. Every time. We are living in some pretty wild times. With Wayfair, Pizzagate, Hillary Clinton's blood-drinking escapades, Obama on a speedboat with a little Asian girl, all these things that are going on. Donald Trump, where does he fit into all this? Was he with Epstein? Has he been a part of that? Was he not? All of that's going to come out in the wash. Everything's going to come out in the wash. And ain't nobody safe from the justice that's going to be exacted by the survivors of all these sick people. My mission is to spread awareness. My mission is to reach out to many more of you, men, boys, young men, whatever you want to say. I am reaching out to all of you to help you be heard, to give you the strength to step forward and speak about the things that happened to you, because you're not alone and you're not to blame, regardless of what anybody on here ever says. You are never to blame. Never to blame. You are a survivor. And you're the real hero. People want to make heroes out of people that abuse women. People want to make heroes out of child abusers, people that kill and hurt elderly people, people that rob, rape, and steal from the innocent. People want to make them into heroes, but guess what? All of you are heroes, the survivors of those people. I can't call myself a hero. That is for you to decide. I'm simply a messenger. Am I selling a book? You're damn right I am. My book, The Laughing Boy, was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Was to relive every single painful emotion and moment of all of that I had to live through. Why do I do it? Well, why does anybody write a book? Why does anybody share their story? Because it's a means to an end for your suffering, to let you know that you're not alone, to let the next person know that no matter how hard you have it in life, somebody always has it harder than you. Somebody's always going to go through it worse than you. This channel, this book, the rebirth of my nonprofit organization that's coming down the way, all of these things, guess what they're for? They're for all of you. Every view I generate, every new subscriber I get, it's the opportunity to help somebody else. People get so caught up in the small details of all this, the fine details of how much money somebody like me is making. Well, you want to know how much money I paid into abuse? Almost 30 years of pain and suffering and PTSD, drug use, crime, low self-esteem, all of these things that I had to suffer, identity crises and everything. For years, I had to go through this because I had to bury it all. That's how much money I paid into this. How much do you think it's worth? I've lost children. I've lost a wife. I've lost family, friends, while I sat in prison. Well over 90% of all men and women that are in prison have a history of sexual, mental, emotionally, physical, and psychological abuse. All of the abuses, the whole alphabet soup of it. Over 90% of them have suffered one of these kind of abuses. You'd be surprised at how many men are now coming forward in my DMs Basically, me too. It happened to me too. People are telling me stories of other things that have happened to them when they were kids that they've never told anybody else ever before. It's happened to them too. Is there ever going to be somebody that deceives in all of this? Of course. But for the most part, this stuff is real. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, all these other traffickers and predators that are being brought down, all those hundreds of thousands of children that Child Protective Services had that are now being discovered, trafficking rings, child pornographers, child murderers, blood drinkers, weirdos. They're all starting to fall. This abuse thing is real. And if somebody has the balls to come on here and speak about it, that person needs to be applauded. And I'm willing to bear the brunt of ridicule, weirdos, trolls, and everything else down the way in order to help you. And that part has always been clear. I encourage each and every one of you that has experienced these things, whether you be a woman, whether you be a man, a young man, a teenage boy, whatever, whoever you are, continue to come forward and talk to me. Reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Messenger. I'm not going to charge you $3,000 to talk to you. But I don't want you to feel like you need to retreat back into your box for any reason because you feel you may not be believed. It's not a question of if a troll believes you. It's a question of you coming to peace with yourself and your ability to come to peace with it and grow from it. You may be able to save the next man or young man who takes his own life because he can't live with it any longer. And he can't live with the rejection or the doubt or anything else, or the ridicule even in some cases. Learn to maneuver around sick people, twisted weirdos that support these celebrity elite power structure, fist fucking, gerbil racing, pedophile, blood drinking bastards. With all their propaganda and fake stories and manufacturing heroes out of POSs. All the rest of it. Learn to maneuver through it all. Because it's all a game that these people are playing. It's a game. They're in their death throes, trying to hold on to power, and they're trying to take everybody else down with them. They may maintain their power. But there'll always be somebody like me that's striking at the root. A man can take a hatchet and chop down a branch, but the one who's most effective is the one that's striking at the root. And you already know what it is, and you heard it right here. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, not sugarcoated, not politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality. And I'm out.